The attempt to overthrow the British Prime Minister failed, but the result of the no-confidence vote is devastating. While Boris Johnson is reluctant, the opposition is jubilant. And so I want to give you an overview of the reaction as well today. Boris Johnson has once again proven his staying power. On Monday evening, the British Prime Minister survived the vote of no confidence that had been called against him by his Conservative Tories faction over the Partygate affair. How long he will remain? Well, that remains an open question, even after this vote. After all, 148 of the 359 Conservative members of the House of Commons voted no confidence in Johnson. His position of power is thus probably considerably weakened, even if he doesn't see it that way. Johnson struggled to portray the result as a great success. "I think this is an extremely good, positive, conclusive and clear result, or decisive," said the Conservative Party leader in a television interview after the vote. "What that means is that we can now move forward as a government and focus on things that I think people really care about." Well, he portrayed the criticism of his person as a pure media hype. He was happy to now only be able to talk about his government's priorities and no longer about all the stuff that is of obsessive and compulsive interest to journalists, said the Prime Minister. And later leader Keir Starmer said, Johnson is not keeping his promises. However, opposition leader Keir Starmer accused the Conservatives of not having a plan for tackling these problems. It is now clearer than ever how divided the Tory party is. The British public is fed up with a Prime Minister who promises a lot but never keeps those promises, the Labour leader said. Divided Tories who support Boris Johnson and have no plan to address the issues they face, Starmer wrote on Twitter. He used the result to promote his own party. Labour will put Britain back on track. Starmer's party colleague, Labour Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy, described Johnson as mortally wounded. It wasn't just the lax attitude towards the self-imposed rules that caused Johnson's opponents in his own party to riot. Jesse Norman, Tory MP and Johnson's longtime companion, accused the Prime Minister of endangering the unity of the country, among other things. Greetings to Scotland and Northern Ireland, by the way. He described the confrontational course with Brussels on the Northern Ireland question as economically very harmful, politically foolish, and almost certainly illegal. He described Johnson's plan to deport refugees to Rwanda as ugly, likely counterproductive, and of dubious legality. Johnson, on the other hand, does not have a long-term political agenda. Instead, you're just trying to campaign, constantly changing the subject and creating political and cultural divides mostly for your own benefit. That's what Norman said. And Ian Blackford from the Scottish National Party, the SNP, was stunned by the outcome of the vote. The SNP leader in Westminster said it was a big deal that so many Conservatives voted against their own Prime Minister. Johnson now has the support of less than a third of the House of Commons. "It should be over for Boris," said Blackford. "He's a man who does not have the support of Parliament. He must recognize that his behavior has demeaned the Prime Minister's office," he said. He does not believe that Boris Johnson will run again for the general election. A further vote of no confidence is now ruled out for a period of 12 months under the current rules of the British Conservatives, and Johnson therefore demanded that criticism of the Prime Minister's leadership role be drawn. There must be drawn a line, his supporters say. "I think it's important now to remember that we are only able to deliver if we are united." That's what Education Minister Nadhim Zahawi told Sky News after the vote. "It's now time to look ahead and to be able to devote time to topics such as the economy and the rapidly rising inflation." Well, you had years to do that. And Culture Minister Nadine Dorries also said that government must now return. "The person Starmer doesn't want to face in an election is Boris Johnson, who has won the largest Conservative majority since 1987 and the highest majority of any party since 1979 with 14 million votes," she said, but we all know her. And Secretary of State Liz Truss agreed with Doris. Now's the time to get down to business. Truss wrote on Twitter that she was delighted that colleagues have supported the Prime Minister. I support him 100%. I really would love to know how she voted in real. Housing Secretary Michael Gove, meanwhile, said there was a need to focus on people's priorities after the Prime Minister won the trust of his MPs. Well, I wouldn't call it that. Now we must do what we were elected to do, raise standards, reduce crime, secure the benefits of Brexit and improve public services. That's what Gove wrote on Twitter. He still has to be on search for any benefit of Brexit, though. A vote of no confidence will be held under British Conservative rules if 15% of the groups votes no confidence in the PM. They write a letter for that. This threshold was reached on Sunday with corresponding messages from at least 54 of the 359 Tory MPs, as the chairman of the Responsible Party Committee, Graham Brady, announced on Monday morning. The vote was held later that evening. Johnson had come under pressure after details came to light about parties at his Downing Street office during the corona lockdowns, some of which were excessive. The Conservative politician tolerated the celebrations and even attended some of them. We all know the pictures. An investigative report accused Downing Street officials of leadership failure. Johnson was fined for attending an illegal lockdown party, becoming the first incumbent UK Prime Minister to be proven to have broken the law. Also of concern to Johnson was that the rebellion did not appear to be coming from just one wing of the party. For example, his critics include both die-hard Brexit supporters such as Steve Baker and ex-Brexit Secretary David Davis, as well as Remainers such as Tobias Ellwood, who recently called for a return to the EU single market. For months, party colleagues had repeatedly called on Johnson to resign. The attempt to chase him out of office has now failed for the time being. Under current party rules, as I said, no further no confidence vote may be attempted against Johnson for a period of 12 months, but that's not the only way. But the hope that criticism of him will now fall silent is also likely to be in vain, although Johnson still has the majority of the parliamentary group behind him. The fronts within his own party seem so entrenched that governing is likely to become increasingly difficult for him. The next crisis for Johnson looms when by-elections are held in 2 English constituencies on June 23rd. In at least one of them, the Tories must brace themselves for a heavy defeat. And Johnson's predecessor, Theresa May, also had to face a vote of no confidence in 2018 in the wake of Brexit. She won, even better than Johnson, but resigned half a year later. At that time, 133 party members voted against her, and he got 148. So we are still in very interesting times, and I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.